All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I get the best financial advice? Where do I go to find it? Can I find it through AI or Google, which, by the way, not so much. But do I go to financial planners or advisors, or who's better and what's the difference? How do I know where I get the best financial advice? I want to go into detail on that in this video about where I found the best financial advice that helped me become financially free before the age of 40. I started off as a financial advisor back in the day. When I was in my 20s, I was looking for some business to start. Being a financial advisor seemed interesting because I figured worst case scenario, I would learn about money. So I became a financial advisor and did that for 4 years. And over that period of time, I drank the Kool-Aid. I thought everything was perfect, by learning things about mutual funds and all kinds of investment type of options, at least within my little narrow focus of being a financial advisor. It's usually insurance, annuities, and mutual funds and that kind of stuff. Now, there was a lot of different strategies and things like that, but at the end of 5 years, I remember sitting down with my dad and looking at his finances, and even though he had stuffed money in his 401k, he paid off all of his debt, yet he still, at the age of 61, wasn't able to retire. He had to wait till his 70s before he was able to retire, and even then, he was just trying to figure out how to stretch out his money as much as he can. And I realized, really, as a financial advisor, what I was teaching wasn't working, and I wanted to look for good financial advice. I personally like to look for where there's evidence. Where do we find the real evidence, what really works? And that's what got me into doing alternative investments and real estate investing and things like that. And so when I talk about finding good financial advice, the thing I like to see most is who's actually been there, done that, but yet still doing it today. Now, we could always go to Google or AI, and it's kind of hit or miss. Now, if you go with AI, what I've noticed with AI, it kind of really just compiles the most common answers and just puts it into one place. Here's the problem. How are people doing? If we talk about looking at evidence, how are general Americans doing when it comes to saving? Even though they're the ones that are saving, how are they really doing? Are they really doing awesome or not? And the truth is, they're not. Even the good savers end up like my dad, trying to figure out how they can stretch out their dollars as long as they can. But guess what? AI is going to give you that advice, isn't it? It's going to give you all the vanilla advice you can get from anywhere. And so in a lot of cases, I'm like, man, even AI seems stupid. Same thing with Google, right? You have to get really creative. Now, you can try to look up alternative investments, but then you kind of run the risk of, do I find a credible source or not? Or is it somebody just pitching me something? I want to make sure that's going to be good. So you want to make sure that when you're starting to research this, it helps to know who you're getting the information from. Now, there are financial advisors out there as well as financial planners. There is a difference between the two. Financial advisors, anybody can become a financial advisor. I find it ironic that in a lot of ways, even though I never consider myself a financial advisor anymore because I quit being a financial advisor back in 2006, in a lot of ways, I am a financial advisor of sorts. Because a financial advisor is anybody who gives any kind of financial advice. They could be giving you credit help, and that could be a financial advisor because they're giving financial advice. They could be telling you how to pay off debt. That's financial advice. They'd be telling you how to budget. Financial advice. They'd be telling you how to invest. All those kind of things, right? Even just managing your own business finances in a way that could be like a financial advisor. Now, they may not have the initials and the licensing behind it, but they're considered financial advising. Now, that being said, you got to take that all with a grain of salt. I would also take the people that have licenses like financial planners, certified financial planners or CFPs. You got all the other accreditations and licenses and Series 6 and 63, 7 and all that kind of stuff, like all the things that I had as well back in the day. Even if you're licensed, still I would take that with a grain of salt. Because even financial planners, the problem is to them everything is like a hammer where everything looks like a nail, right? When you look at what they're seeing, everything has to fit into their box. And I learned this firsthand, even myself, when I was in that space, because I was looking at everything as mutual funds, really being the answer. The stock market was it. That was the thing that you make money in. Now, I knew, of course, people made money in business. I knew that some people made money in real estate, but I never believed that you could really make the best money there. That's not where you store your money. You store your money in mutual funds. That was like the answer for everything. Why? Because that's what I was literally licensed, not to advise necessarily, but licensed to sell you. Financial advisors, and especially financial planners, are licensed to sell you stuff. Now, there are some that are just fee-based planners, and that's better if you have a fee-based planner, because at least they're going to just say, listen, you pay me my fee, I'll advise you wherever you want to go, regardless of commissions. Now, some will make commissions too, while others just say, here's where you go to get the best investments, and that works great. The only problem is most people don't want to do fee-based because they're scared. They think, well, why would I do fee-based when I can get it for free? The only reason you get it for free from financial advisors is because they make money off of you whatever you do there. So if you're buying insurance, yes, they make commissions off of you from insurances. Same thing with annuities. They make commissions off that. If you put their what they call assets under management, where they have your money, could be in a brokerage account or whatever it might be, they make money off of the fees that come out of your investments, right? So they have their assets under management. They might be charging you 1%, maybe even up to 2% or more every year on your money. Whether you make money or not, you're getting charged on that money. That to me, one, is kind of borderline unethical. And really, you can't ever really truly trust their advice because their advice is always going to kind of veer towards what gets them paid. And I've watched this firsthand, not just with my own experience as being a financial advisor, but also watching other financial advisors too. A lot of times they'll say, well, hey, this company pays 5%, but this company pays 8%. So I'm going to go with this annuity over here, even though it may not always be the best. Still, they're close enough, and I make more money. They justify that all the time. I've even seen people in the life insurance space, the space that I actually am in right now, where I see people that will try to set up their infinite banking plans, but then they'll charge them more on the insurance than they have to. So you'll be paying like sometimes double the cost of insurance or more just because they say, well, you still get a good deal, but I need to make some money too. And the truth is, we actually always cut our costs down to the minimum. We still make decent, good money with that. In fact, we make a lot of money because people will put more with us because they know they have more that comes out. But unfortunately, in that scarcity world, whether you're an insurance person or a financial advisor or even planners, in many, many cases, because they're being directed by commissions, you can't always trust their advice. And this is where it comes back to what I had mentioned before is find people that have been there, done that, but yet still doing it today. And so for me, for example, like I tell people all the time about my story about retiring twice or having the ability to retire twice. Every time I try to retire, I got bored, I had to do something else, right? I had to come out of retirement to do something. But I did it twice. Now, that's not because I was amazing, but that's because I screwed up the first time and it took me a second time to do it. Ideally, I should have only had to do it once, but I did screw up. But the cool thing is because I did screw up, I had to replicate it again a second time. I couldn't just rely on market benefits or market swings to make me lucky. I had to be able to do it again the next time without having like 2006 where like real estate was just booming, in 2005, 6, and 7, where anybody made money in real estate. I had to do it again, even coming out of the depths of the greatest recession. And so I had to do it twice. And so for me, I'm not saying I'm the end all be all person for advice, but for me, I look for people like myself, people that even if they've got beat up, even if they made mistakes, I want to see if they are able to turn that around and learn from those lessons and then come back better the next time. So I look for that. I look for people that have actually, been there, right? They've done it before, been there, done that, right? But they're still doing it now. There are many people out there that will go back and say, well, back in 1996, I did blank, and that's what got me to do this. But they haven't been able to replicate it today. I've seen that in the real estate space quite a bit, where they were good at one point, but they can't replicate the level of success they have now. Now, that's harder to do with real estate, but I've seen it even in stocks, where people might have hit big during one time period, but then weren't able to replicate it again. Maybe they predicted something and they were able to get in and make a lot of money. This also happens with people with Bitcoin, for example, and digital currencies. All the time you see people saying, whoa, I made it big, but then the last couple of years, like, oop, but I lost it too. Okay, cool, well, what'd you learn from that? Just buy and hold. Okay, well then, did you really learn anything? No, you didn't. You're still the same gambler you were before. But if they're like, you know what, this is what I learned, like now I know when to look for peaks, I'm gonna sell out of my digital currency at the peaks, which by the way, I did that myself. I actually sold out of Bitcoin when it was selling for about $50,000. This is before it dropped down to like $16,000. And so I was able to take those profits and run after I bought it at 6,000 bucks, sold at 50, take my profits and run. Now, will I get back into it again? Maybe down the road. Same thing with the stock market. If I see a huge stock market crash, yeah, I might get in with a little bit of money, not gonna bank all of my wealth on it. That's just more like play money I use to go do that kind of stuff. But I like to take my money and make it work and make sure that it's always paying me. That's why I go into more real estate investing, because I know with real estate has much more certainty behind it. There's a real asset backing it up. It's not gonna be as volatile as you get with the stock market or with digital currencies and things like that. I know I can trust it better, and therefore I put the bulk of my assets there. Just like I put some of my money back in my business. I reinvest in my business because I know I could build it bigger. I have full control over that. I don't have control over everything in my life, but I can control some of those elements to be able to make it more profitable and make my business grow to essentially make more videos to help you guys, right? So that's why I do that way. So look for those people that do that. Don't just look for people to teach it. By the way, speaking of that, don't just look for people online. You might be thinking, well, is Chris just getting paid to teach this kind of stuff? I wasn't always, right? Now, I did to help me dig out of my hole. I was coaching people how to find more money and get resourceful, save money on taxes, things like that, to help build a business, to have the cash, to then pay off all the debts I racked up from the 2007 crash. And then I was also able to go take that money and invest it to create passive income. But that's no different than what you would have to do yourself. You have a job or you have a business that you're trying to build up your income and then take that money and create passive income. So what you want to do is you want to try to replicate not exactly what somebody does. I'm not saying you do a carbon copy of what I did because you don't have to. There's a lot of different ways to make it work. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say, right? Well, there's more than one way to make your investments work to still get the same or better results than I even got in my own life. But it just requires you to be able to replicate more about what we were doing, what the principles we're following, what are the questions we were asking, what are the types of investments that we were doing that not necessarily worked then, but now work today. That's what I mean by been there, done that, but still doing it now. Things do change and shift over time. There are different opportunities and different investments that can get you more money. So if you want to create more wealth, more passive income, find somebody who's actually done that. The reason I left being a financial advisor, why I became the anti-financial advisor, so to speak, is because I realized that every financial advisor I knew, even the ones that have been doing it since the late 1970s, were still in their own rat race. They could not retire themselves. In fact, if it weren't for the commissions, they would have no hope of retirement. That should alarm you because if they're trying to sell you on buying into mutual funds that hasn't not even worked for themselves, why would you do it too? Same thing with guys like Dave Ramsey out there. He teaches you, hey, pay off all your debt and then you get debt free and then you buy houses all with debt-free debt and everything else, so you get no debt at all and then you go put your money in mutual funds. Well, Dave, where'd you make your money? Business, number one. He doesn't say, oh, go invest in a business. He doesn't say that. He does tell people if you have a business, do a good job there. But he's not like telling everybody in the world to go start a business. But he made all of his money in his business first. Then he went and bought real estate. But you don't see him talking about buying real estate. Now, he said he bought it all in cash. Well, when you're making tens of millions of dollars in your company, it's a little bit easier to do that. A lot harder for the average American to go and say, let me pay off my mortgage first, and then let's save up enough money while I'm chasing inflation as the house prices are increasing. I'm trying to save up enough money to finally catch up to it, to finally buy that property, versus maybe I use debt to lock in the price, and then my renters pay down my mortgage for me, and then I get all that appreciation I would have missed out on because I was listening to crappy Dave Ramsey, right? That's the thing, is that you could do it better, but do it in a way that actually works. Dave, you can't replicate. That's the problem, is that people are trying to follow his advice for advice he didn't do himself necessarily, or two, you would never be able to replicate yourself. And so follow the advice of those that you could actually model after and then do that. So you want to get real financial education that actually works and produces results, especially if you want passive income, if you want good financial advice, click on the link in the description so you can go down that rabbit hole and learn a lot more so you can apply it today.